Hi, my name's Luke Stow and welcome to the review on the Reboot show. Today, we've got a discussion around kickbacks, alliances, referrals, and reselling. And it's a really interesting topic from a technology perspective. And I'd like to thank Gary for his question, who wrote in and asked me about alliances, referrals, kickbacks, and how they work within the technology industry. His question to me was, how rife is this within the industry, and what are the practices that are being used? Look, I think it'd be really great to start with, what we're talking about when we talk about these alliances and how they work. And then I'll give you a couple of examples and we'll talk through exactly what this looks like and perhaps some of the measures that you can put in place if you want to try and equalize these issues or come up with solutions for your business or for your enterprise about how you can deal with these situations. The first thing to say is that most integrators globally, and you've got to remember the technology industry is worth $4 trillion this year, 2020, in what has been a pretty subdued market. So we're talking about a large flow of cash between those who purchase and those who supply. The alliances work in this way. Say you're a large solutions integrator, you will have arrangements with software providers where if you or your people, more specifically, engage with a client and you recommend their software or their hardware, and they receive purchase for the software and hardware, then they are entitled to an economic payment because of the recommendation that's been made. So that's the integrator getting paid by the software and hardware provider if their product or their hardware is procured in the process. I'll give you an example of this. Many years ago, as a CIO, I was in a situation where our business was going through a massive transformation. The transformation value would have been $400 to $500 million US. And one of the providers that was the main SI for that work had an arrangement with a software provider that I later worked for. And this all took place within a 12-month period. The software provider that I was working with had a visit from the solutions integrator, and they asked for 15% of the total sale of the value of the sale of the software into that firm. The value of the contract was over $100 million in software, and 15% of that $100 million had to be handed over to the solution integrator because they had recommended that software be used as part of the solution for the client. The issue that Gary raises is a really concerning one. Should this be disclosed to clients? Does this need to be discovered as part of the pre-sales activity? Should it be known to clients that this practice is occurring between a software and hardware provider and a solutions integrator? The answer to that, I think, is yes. It is imperative that the client has full disclosure about any of these economic models that businesses may have between themselves. I think, in fairness, these economic models are reasonable, but only if they're disclosed. And I don't think there's enough practice in disclosing these arrangements to the client. Some of the businesses will say that they give that money back in lessening fees and lessening commercial arrangements with client, but I think disclosure is the one and only way where that can be really clearly understood by the client prior to any purchases or any transactions being made. Is this rife? Yeah, look, I think that most of the tier one and probably several of the tier twos integration firms have these type of arrangements with software and hardware firms. It raises questions of bias. It raises questions of, did you only suggest that technology or that hardware technology because you're getting a payment for us using it as a client. It raises questions of bias for people who are working in the space, who quite often don't even understand that these arrangements exist, but act on behalf of their business in suggesting different types of software and hardware solutions to clients because they're being pressured to by the integration executive or management. So it puts everyone in a very difficult position if this becomes discovered post a sale. There are plenty of cases of this being litigated, particularly by governments who think that, and government agencies where they think this is a unfair practice and should be disclosed. And I think this raises a lot of credibility questions about biases within solution integration firms. You know, we've talked about parties having these economic models behind the scenes. I, for one, think these models should be disclosed up front. I think the other way that clients can deal with this is that they can ask for some independence in advice. So separate the integrator, let the integrator do the integration, but have consultants do consultancy work in the front end when designing solutions so that they are not influenced in terms of buying products where there may be these type of referral programs. I love that question, Gary. I thought it was a really good one to start the review with. Hopefully you've enjoyed this review session and you've got something out of it. And I look forward to sharing more with you and answering more of your questions. Please contact me on any platform that you see me on, and I'd love to answer your questions as part of this review session. Thank you for joining me on the review, the Reboot Show. Subscribe and see you next week on the review, 6 p.m. Australian Eastern Standard Time.